I am testing something.
Jeez.
Hooper looks confused. And is checking things in the back of his computer. Cords, maybe. Wires, perhaps. Trying to see if there is a connection that is made properly. Because if there's not, it could be detrimental to this podcast and to the recording of future podcasts made by the HooperCast team.
Huh, okay. It was just those headphones.
Oh, weird.
Woo. What?
Well.
What was that? I tried. Oh.
I'm part predator, by the way.
Mrs. Hooper showed me a picture of a kid who put gauges in his ears, nose, and cheeks. Cheeks. His face looks like a fucking gas mask.
Oh my god.
It's creepy. Like, to the point where, like, picture your cheeks being really puffy, and so your mouth kind of goes like a... like a little bit... It's like that. Like, his resting face.
Really?
It's not like just like a closed mouth like a normal human being.
Why would you do that to yourself?
I was like... It reminded me of, like, these... You probably haven't watched Doctor Who yet, so there's these kids... Nah. There's this one episode where, like, there's people who have, like, gas masks for faces. Like, little children, and they go around like, are you my mommy? Mommy, and I'm like, ah!
Oh,
so
my God.
I see this dude's face, I'm like, But then I realize he looks like the Predator without the helmet.
Oh, yeah,
and
he
so
does, yeah.
I Googled it, and I was like, look, and she's like, oh my God, and I was like, he's just like his eyes, and it's just like,
yeah.
Gross.
When it's open, that's the scariest. And it's like,
I literally, so I showed the picture, and I was like, what the hell are you? And she's like, seriously, what the hell is he? And I was like,
yeah.
Right?
That's crazy.
It was gross.
That sounds disgusting.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 45 of the HooperCast.
45.
45 is
Colt
half.
45.
Why don't you treat yourself to a nice Colt 45?
Colt 45.
And the Millennium Falcon. I saw him up on TV the other day in some...
I thought you were going to say, I saw him the other day.
Yeah, we're friends.
Say, you lucky man.
No, he didn't have his mustache. I was like,
oh!
It was weird.
That is weird.
It was him and Richard Pryor were in a movie or something, or maybe it was just two separate movies on the same day, but neither of them had their mustaches, and it was scary.
That is weird.
Yeah. Like some mustache monster came down and took him.
I'm going to have your mustache, and I'm going to have your mustache, and I'm going to have two mustaches.
He was taking their mustaches to make an army of pedophiles.
Yep.
Alright, anyway. So we're here today to talk about Iron Man 3. We're about a week late, but I don't care. So
yeah, who cares?
I like our just blazing indifference to our fans. I feel no responsibility to like being timely at all.
No.
That's
why bother?
Yeah, we're not getting paid. You could now if you listeners started donating, I'd be a little more punctual about seeing things.
Yeah, for real.
I go to midnight shows. If even we just broke even, I'd be like, well, pays for itself. That's cool. But
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I like how we just pass off the blame to them too. Like,
yeah,
well,
it's
really,
your fault. By the way,
if you guys did more, perhaps we'd do more.
Yeah.
You don't really have to go into our history of the films because I think we talk every other episode about how we felt about all of them. But
that's very true.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I think we both liked the first one about the same. There are people who say the first one's amazing. I think it's just a good movie.
I think it's just good. Yeah.
And then Iron Man 2, we start to split because I know that I think we both recognize every single fact. And then the way we interpret the facts are a little different, but I essentially agree. We essentially agree on Iron Man 2. It doesn't bug me nearly as much as it bugs the mass population. And I know we both love the Avengers. I would think that because of the way we felt about all those films, I don't know how similar our views are going to be on this one.
Okay.
Compared to all the other Iron Man movies, would you say this is the best of them? The worst of them?
I wouldn't say it's the best.
Okay.
Yesterday, Connor calls me when he gets out of the theater, and he asked me a very simple question. And I've been thinking about it ever since. He said, without any ums or uhs, do you like the movie? Yes or no? And I said yes. But as I began to ponder this answer, I began to realize that a yes doesn't do it justice, but then again, neither does a no. That is one of those questions that cannot be answered by a yes or no. So yeah, I don't think it's the best of the Iron Man movies, but it's certainly not the worst. What about you, Hooper? Where does it rank with you?
I think it's better than 2. I'm trying to figure out if it's better. It's weird because I don't have an objective opinion on the 3 of them compared to each other, because I think 1 has certain strengths that 2 doesn't have, and I think 2 has strengths that 1 doesn't have, or maybe 2 strengths over the first movie.
Over the first movie.
I still maybe have to settle, but I have decided that I do like it.
Yeah.
What did you think of the story? How familiar are you with the Extremis comic book storyline?
I'm not very familiar with Iron Man comics in general. I've never read an Iron Man comic, so what I know of the Extremis is just really from Wikipedia. And so I read that probably a year ago or so. So it wasn't very fresh in my mind going in, and that was done on purpose. I didn't reread it on purpose. But yeah, so to answer your question, I'm not super familiar with the original source material.
Basically, character-wise, Tony is it's post-Avengers, and he has post-traumatic stress disorder from both the experience in New York, maybe going through the wormhole, the end of the Avengers. Spoiler. Don't care. He can't sleep, he has panic attacks, he's kind of going through all that, and so he's busying himself a lot. Meanwhile, the plot itself is that there are these bombings going on that keep happening, terrorist activity by this terrorist named the Mandarin, and then also, while that's going on, there's another businessman who's developing this biochemical. It's not a weapon. It's a biochemical.
Right. But I think primarily, especially in the movie, it's more about the healing factor.
Yeah. It's basically for amputees and.
Right. They can grow their arms back.
Yeah. Wounded veterans and stuff. So, so that's basically what's going on in the set of the movie. There's a couple other things, but.
Yeah,
that's too much. There'd be too much detail to keep going, but so that's kind of what's going on. And Tony decides that he's going to figure out what's going on with these bombings. And obviously, if you use your brain, then it probably has something to do with the Extremis serum, if you will.
Yeah.
I thought overall the film was a success. I think some people were worried about the director change from Jon Favreau to Shane Black. This being Shane Black's first big budget action movie,
right?
And this being the third movie in a superhero franchise that where the last one a lot of people didn't like or liked less than the first, and it has to follow up the Avengers,
right?
And so I think that I think people were excited for this, and I was very satisfied. I thought it didn't try to outdo the Avengers. I think it tried to tell a self-contained story within a bigger universe, which you and I talked about probably being a challenge. And
it's a very different story than the Avengers.
It's very different, and I think it really exemplifies. The reason I like it so much is I didn't think about this before, but after listening to people talk about it, I realized something. I think a big reason people didn't like Iron Man 2, well, a big reason is because it felt like half of a story, and then the other half was a setup for the Avengers. It was like a big commercial.
Right.
And I think another reason was, as likable as Robert Downey Jr. is, he was kind of, I think he came off as just like a prick in that movie to some people. I don't quite think so, but I really do see it, like, compared to his characterizations in 3 and 1.
Yeah,
he's and he's dying or whatever, so whatever. But he's a lot more reckless and self-centered in 2 than he is in the other 2 movies.
Right.
Maybe that turned people off as well. So I liked this movie so much because it puts him in the suit a lot less, but not in a way that leaves you wanting for action. Like, I wanted to see more action, but not like I didn't think there was enough. I just thought,
right, sure.
Oh, like it's just I want to see more. Like, I was excited by it, and
sure.
they accomplished that with having him in the suit less than they could have, you know.
Yeah.
But I think that showed Stark using his brain a little more, and that reminded me a lot of the first one. Where, I mean, 2. If I will say this about 2 just seemed like his suit was always there, and he had a way out of everything. You know, he had like a suitcase suit and everything, and so you didn't really get to see him tinker as much.
Right.
And I like that. So I think that it just was a really good place to have his character struggle with something internal rather than the chess piece is poisoning me.
Right.
You know.
It's a very entertaining movie. It's a popcorn movie. I think it wanted to have a little more depth than it did. I think it wanted to be a little more mature in theme and in tone than it was. But at the end of the day, it's a good popcorn movie. It's something you can put have on the background. You know what I mean? It's not something you really have to invest in. But, you know, all things considered, especially, you know, the fact that I don't particularly care for the Iron Man films, unless you count the Avengers, which I do like. Right. All things considered, I thought it was a very entertaining movie and very interesting to watch and fun. It was a lot of fun. It has its problems. It has plenty of problems, and I know once we get into the spoiler part and once we start dissecting the film a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm probably going to sound like a grump, like, I hate this movie and everything about it. But I'm just going to go ahead and say I don't. It is a good movie. What I'm going to kind of point out is some of the shortcomings. You know, that's not to say that these all are super important, but they're just things that I noticed. So anyway, just a warning. I don't hate the movie. But, you know, there are a lot of things that I'm going to cover in a few minutes. But overall, you know, very, very fun movie to watch. And I saw a matinee, and I'm not disappointed.
This is one of the few movies, I mean, granted, I've cut down my theater watching a lot, but this is probably since the Avengers that I've seen and wanted to go back to the theater and see again.
Yeah.
So I can't wait for this to come out on home media so I can buy it and add it to my collection. And you know, one of the things I keep doing, it's exactly what Marvel wants me to do, but it's what I want to do, is I go back and I like to watch all these in sequence again. Like, I love that. I don't get tired of that. I could put Iron Man 2 on. I used to put it on all the time while I was like cleaning or something. Again, I don't know why that movie, it just, for some, you know how there are movies that just make you want to do stuff, do certain things. There's some movies that make you want to eat. There's movies I watch that make me want to work out. There's movies I watch that make me want to clean or do something productive. And for some reason, Iron Man 2 taps into, like, go do something. Maybe that's the movie going, hey, please don't watch me. But I don't know.
I think it's Tony Stark.
Maybe it's just Stark,
who's
like,
highly motivated.
Whenever I see like whenever I see him like a montage of him working, I'm like, man, I should be doing something. I'm sitting on my ass eating some chips.
But they are good. I'm going to continue eating them.
Yeah, I'm going to keep eating them though. Or I'll see him, like, you know, building something and he's wearing like a tank top, and I look at my arms, I'm like, I should lift some stuff.
Yeah,
that's a big thing. I felt like watching Thor. Like, yeah, I want to do. I'm little.
Exactly. I'm gonna go pull a hammer from the earth.
He worked very hard to get where he is.
He did. Very.
Anyway, I think what we're trying to do is talk about the spoiler stuff without saying spoilers.
Without spoiler, yeah.
I think now. People want to know if we liked it or not. I would say that overall, I think we liked it. Now, if you want to hear particulars, either see the movie and listen, or just we're warning you, we're about to go into spoilers unless you have anything else to add. That
no. Okay. I mean, you know, I think we've said everything. I mean,
yeah,
we enjoyed the movie, so there you go.
Yeah. All right, spoiler time.
Spoiler time. Spoiler time.
Oh, I thought you were going to Spider-Man with that. Sorry.
Oh.
I went down and you went up.
Yeah. Spoiler time. Spoiler time.
Yeah.
Friendly neighborhood spoiler time.
Spoil the movie. Go away. And
all the plot twists.
In your face.
And which characters are gay. Look out. Here comes the spoiler time.
Let's talk about the characters first, because that's...
Okay.
I want to let you talk first, but I'm just going to say, I think one of the characters you're talking about being pointless, let me guess two of them.
Okay.
Because they're basically my two. I thought that Happy and Maya were not necessary to the story at all.
I agree with those. Happy and Maya. Maya just gets shot, and then it's like, oh, okay. and then Happy, dude's like, hey, I'm gonna follow that guy, and he follows this guy, and so basically all that accomplished was so that the audience could see things.
Yeah, exactly.
And so it doesn't really further the story, but it furthers the audience's understanding of the story, which I don't feel like is a really great way to build a scene. And then he's just in a coma for the rest of the time, and it's like, well, Happy, what are you doing? And I almost took it as like a jab at Jon Favreau, like, hey, remember, now we're gonna put you in a coma because of what you did.
Well, I wonder if part of that was like him having an executive producer role, like then he needed to do more of that, or just the fact that he really doesn't serve the story, so let's not pretend that he's going to do more. Because really, I'm glad I wasn't really. You see him for like a few scenes at the beginning where he's doing a lot of joking around, like mostly about being like not uptight about security, but just sort of like he seemed kind of like a dick because like. In the first two movies, he's kind of like a happy sidekick. He's, or he's just a couple jokes, but a lot more subtlety. And then, like, he becomes head of security, and he's like, he's just kind of like a jerk and like a... And then he gets in the coma, whatever. It just seemed like a few attempts at humor. Hey, don't worry, Jon Favreau is still in the movie. And then, like you said, to show the audience what happens. Regarding what happens.
I think that's true about him, like, kind of becoming a jerk or whatever, but... Yeah. But you have... What's weird to me about it is they're like, okay, he's head of security, he's really good at what he does, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But then just before that, we saw him dive on Tony, like, because he thought there was a bomb or something, and it wasn't anything. And he, like, dives on Tony, and he's like, no, I'm good. And it's played for laughs, and so it kind of makes him seem like he's not good at what he does.
Right, which I always thought in the other two movies that he showed that he was, in fact, a very effective bodyguard.
Yeah. I mean, true, that was back in 99, but still.
Well, then he's regressed then.
Yes, he has.
As for Maya, in the Extremis storyline, here's how much they follow the Extremis storyline. Yeah. Maya creates it.
Yeah.
And that's about it. You're right, though. Like, she exists to say, hey, Tony Stark and I have a history. And then she shows up, and then she leaves... And then she betrays him, and then she's about to reconsider it, and she's shot. And I thought she was going to, like, heal and stand up and then do more. But she's just dead. And it's like, okay, so you had her in the movie for no... To me, when you have no significant effect on the plot, except you created the MacGuffin, you could just have... Why not just have Killian, Guy Pearce, create the MacGuffin? He's already spearheading it. So why don't we just make him create it?
Exactly.
Especially character-wise, she has no effect on Tony really either.
Right. Very true.
I mean...
Let's talk about another character who I thought was kind of pointless.
Okay.
The little kid in Tennessee.
Right.
All of the stuff that happens in Tennessee could have happened without the kid. It just doesn't feel to me like there was a point to him other than to connect it to the kid audience. And so when I was watching it, I was like, okay, I told myself I wasn't going to bring up Batman in this review, but I'm going to. In the early days, the comic writers figured out that it's hard to write a story where Batman is like solving a crime or doing whatever if he doesn't have anyone to talk to. So they gave him Robin for that reason, and so that the kids would have someone to
identify
be.
With.
Essentially, because they can't identify with a 30-year-old man running around in tights, but they can identify with an 8-year-old. And so that idea, I feel like, kind of came into play here. And it was, I think a misstep, because I think kids do identify with Batman, and I think they do identify with Iron Man. And if only in the way of, I want to be a hero because they're cool. But still, they're going to root for them either way. That being said, the kid is a little pointless to me. He's sort of the guide through Tennessee for Tony, but he didn't need that. I mean, Tony could have figured out everything that he did without him. There's just one situation where the kid saves his life, and they could have just written that a little differently
with something that Tony gave him.
Yeah, moments earlier, and then he was there for a few jokes, and so anyway, I think the kid was kind of pointless, and then I'll also go ahead and jump into a couple more characters that I felt like had too much screen time, and that is a couple of the extremists, like henchmen or whatever, the girl and then the main guy that goes on board Air Force One,
James Badgedale.
I hate henchmen because they're henchmen. They're not really threatening, except in like a mild way. So it's just like another obstacle, and so I hate henchmen. But anyway, whatever. I guess they do at least serve the plot, but they just don't, to me, matter very much. So anyway, those are the characters I was going to point out, those 4. Or 5 if you count the extremists too, which I don't, because they weren't really characters, they were just pawns. So anyway, but there you go. So those are the ones I was going to talk
about. I feel the same about the kid in a certain way. I feel like there were times where I was like, they walked a very delicate line where I thought if you go too far with this, then it's going to seem way too like, oh, the kid's here, save the day. But I try and think sometimes, is this a plot character? Is this a character? I feel like Maya's a plot character. You know. I feel like I don't know what Jon Favreau is, and I think the kid was a little bit of both, which I guess you want them to be both. But I mean, the kid, if you really want to tighten up the script, if you really want to tighten it up, the kid's not quite important. But I think he does serve sort of a little bit of a character role for Stark. I think the whole abandoning dad's connection thing was a pretty obviously it was written down by somebody, so it's deliberate. But I think some of it was Shane Black having sort of like the whole buddy dynamic that he does really well in his movies, like Lethal Weapon and Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. The same with
and this.
And this. And
with Tony and Rhodey,
Tony and Rhodey and Tony and the kid.
He likes to pair up characters, and that makes sense to me.
I feel like if the kid wasn't there, I'm wondering, would I have more questions? Or sometimes I'm wondering, would I rather have more questions, or would I rather have maybe too much? Sometimes I flip-flop. Here, if there would be no kid, I'd be like, well, whose garage is that? Like, why aren't they home? Blah, blah, blah. I did have a problem with how smart the kid was. I don't know if I liked him being, like, thank God you landed in the one garage in Tennessee where the kid is, like, mildly intelligent. Well, no, I didn't mean to say that, because that sounds like I'm saying people from Tennessee are dumb. I mean, like, but someone who can interact, who can listen to Stark talk about the suit, and not be just incredibly starstruck that it's Tony Stark, that's an Iron Man in front of him, but B, know what he's talking about and be able to assist him. I'm just glad they didn't have the kid, like, repair his suit in a way that Tony would not see himself, because that would undermine Stark's intelligence. So I'm glad they didn't do that. I don't know what I would have wanted with the kid. I feel like I see why people might have a problem with it, but that's one of those things where a lot of the problems I do have with it, I acknowledge they don't affect the whole for me. So maybe that's what's happened with Iron Man 2 as well. But I feel like a movie like this has more of a potential to upset me with things like that, because I think the depth is a lot better in this than 2. 2 is a lot more popcorn. This got back to the depth of 1. And so when you take risks like that, I think that if they do fail, it does undermine the movie. Whereas in 2, I'm just like, I don't care about that anyway.
Right. Well, if I can rebut for just a second, you did mention that the connection between the fathers, between the kid and Tony, but I guess, and I understand that, but I guess my problem with it is that emotional, like, point in Tony's life doesn't come up in the film except in that one scene. If there was more to do with his father, like there was in the second one even, then then it would make more sense to me. But in this movie, it kind of sticks out like, you know, it could have been a good idea, but you just didn't follow through. And so anyway, I guess that's just what I'm trying to say with the kid. But
yeah.
But again, you know, that's sort of a nitpick. That's not really going to weigh my opinion of the film down too much. I
guess it is a delicate line to walk with henchmen, but I also, you know, these kind of movies can't exist without them. I don't know how I felt about them, essentially. I guess I didn't even think about it, which probably means it just was under my radar, or I was focused on other things.
You were just okay with it. And that's, you know, that's completely fine. For me, it was just I wish there was more character to them. Because they were obviously people first. And they obviously were wounded in... we know she was. I can't remember what we found out about him. But wounded in the war. So it seems to me that they would have some personality traits left over from that. And they don't seem to have any personality or any distinguishable traits from one another. And so that I guess is what kind of is aggravating to me. But
I wish we had seen more of Ain't No Skank. Did you notice her?
I did. The second she was on screen, I was like, "Oh, Tony, watch out! Don't get under an ATM."
Yeah. We'll go ahead and talk about the Mandarin twist / Ben Kingsley. I've read and heard that some people do not like the twist, and I'll go ahead and start and say I think it's a pretty good twist. I like it.
I think nerds get upset when you change things.
Yeah,
and that's where the frustration comes from. For me, again, I've never read an Iron Man comic, so I have no emotional attachment to the character as a character.
Yeah.
Had they done this with the Joker, it would have been different. Man, I'm mentioning Batman again, but the point is, I don't have a problem with the twist, but I do have a problem with the twist.
I think the character was one-dimensional to begin with, and I think they did something interesting with it.
Yeah, and that's very true. That's a good point. But what I do have a problem with is, and this goes for just about every movie. It includes The Dark Knight Rises, which I know I'm talking about Batman again. In both of those films, you're led to believe that there is a guy, Bane or Mandarin, that is in charge of everything. He's the bad guy, and they both end up pawns. I don't like that ever. I don't like that twist. I think you've told me to be intimidated by a character. I want to continue to be intimidated by that character. The only way I'll accept it in a film is I'll still hate the fact that they did it, but I'll accept it if the person they're working for is truly more intimidating.
Okay.
Here's the difference. In The Dark Knight Rises, I accept it because I just like Talia al Ghul as a character. So that's me being, sentimental towards a property, towards the source material. In this case, I have no attachment to the Mandarin, nor do I have an attachment to Guy Pearce's character, whose name escapes me at the moment.
Aldridge Killian. I don't know why I remember it, because I've forgotten it all day, but now
Yes, Killian, yes.
Weird.
I have no emotional attachment to them. I hate the fact that they did the twist, because I actually thought that it was really cool to see like a terrorist like that. And I thought he was pretty intimidating. So you got to be pretty intimidating to follow it up. And I didn't feel that from Killian. Which I guess is another point altogether, which we'll get to later. But I didn't feel that way. And so that's the long way of saying I hate it, but I don't hate it. Does that make sense?
Yes. I have an argument. I have a rebuttal and a slap on the wrist for Dark Knight Rises regarding the twist. What I did not like about this similar circumstance in Dark Knight Rises was that Bane was truly intimidating.
Yes.
And I loved every second of seeing him on screen. And then they said, oh, he is not running things. Talia al Ghul is running things.
Yeah.
So Bane still exists. He's still scary, but now he's less scary because he's not running the show.
Henchman.
Yeah, he's a henchman. And so I'm thinking, if he's so badass, why would he be subjected to somebody? What I liked about this was that this Mandarin, this terrorist, he's just an actor with a drug problem.
Yeah.
The difference is they're not saying, oh, this guy isn't really Bane, this girl is Bane. Right. They're saying, no, that's still Bane, but he's really not as scary anymore, but not in a good way. I like this because it's like, it's not that this guy is the Mandarin and he's just not scary. He's not the Mandarin. He's basically a double who doesn't look like the real Mandarin. So I liked it because the idea of who he is was still in place. They just they have a face for it to basically distract everybody. So I liked that difference. I think made a lot of sense to me because the man himself isn't scary, and so they're both the reveal that he's not scary. So it's not like I'm being told it's not like the movie was asking me to still be intimidated by this guy. They were like, no, you shouldn't. Because, as you can see, he's a completely likable guy who just wants a job to support, a drug problem.
A drug addiction.
Yeah, whereas Bane, I felt like it makes sense why this actor, Trevor, or whatever his name was, it makes sense why he would do whatever they want him to do because they're paying him. And what does he give a shit? Bane is still, seems like the kind of guy who is... He's not an actor, so he remains like this resourceful... authoritative guy, yet he is subject to someone else.
Right. For
not a great reason, way too late in the film. So that's why I can accept the Kingsley thing. If anything, I am a little let down because when I saw the trailer and hearing his voice and you'll never see me coming, I was just like, wow, that's interesting.
Right.
And so I'm wondering, would I have preferred if they had carried the movie out like that? Mm-hmm. Or do I like that that's the whole point? You're supposed to be caught up with this guy because that's his whole purpose is to misdirect America and the military and the president and keep their eyes off Killian, the real Mandarin. I liked it.
Sure. I guess my thing is that he is he to me is scary because he's a terrorist. It's a real thing. He has no power. He's a very realistic threat to me. Yeah. And then you say, oh, but here's a dude who can make things hot when he touches them. And then all of a sudden, I'm not as threatened by him. As slick as Guy Pearce is, as great...
I think slick as hell, isn't he?
He is. I think he can be intimidating. But I didn't feel it from this movie. I never once felt like, okay, this is a threat for Tony. And for a while, I thought the Mandarin was going to be... I guess what it boils down to is I wanted to see more of, the Mandarin, as this, Ben Kingsley guy doing terrorist stuff. And I wanted the film to be more real in that way. Because that's a threat that Tony has never faced. This is a real terrorist who means harm to not you, Tony, but the country, but to our way of life. That's a real threat to me. Whereas a guy who just, wants to burn you is, I'm still not very clear on his whole plan.
Yeah, I mean, neither.
But so I guess it was a number of things that I think there was more potential in the Ben Kingsley character, and I wish that it had gone on longer. It could still have a twist. I still hate that, but whatever. Anyway, I guess in the end, I just wanted more Ben Kingsley being, a bad dude.
Okay.
But for what it was, I think Ben Kingsley pulled it off well. I think it was hilarious. I think it was a great twist that I did not see coming.
Yeah.
And because who does a plot twist in the middle of the movie?
Because you'll never see me.
You'll never see me. Oh my God,
I truly didn't.
That's exactly. I did not. You are correct.
Now that I really think about it, like seeing interviews with him too, and they're like it's talk about Ben Kingsley. I'm sure never once said I want to get Tony Stark. Because everyone always says, well, they refer to the character in the third person because it's the character. so you don't have to change the way you talk at press junkets at all. They're like, well, tell me about the Mandarin. What does the Mandarin want to do? Well, the Mandarin wants to do this, and he's sitting there thinking like, you motherfuckers don't even know. I'm not even talking about me. I'm talking about Guy Pearce over here.
Guy Pearce.
Guy Pearce is sitting there.
Guy Pearce is sitting over there. Yeah.
Like, it's me. Don Cheadle, getting to see Rhodes do more. What I liked about this was because they, like I said, they bring them both out of the suits more. They show, they do sort of have like a buddy cop moment for a while where they're not just people in suits. They are, Rhodey in particular, like a man of action, a guy who's, he's a leader. He's a colonel. And to see him exemplify that without, the vulnerability of being just a man with your wits. For the majority of the movie, really. I mean, he doesn't even spend hardly any time as the Iron Patriot. And so that was refreshing to see because that's a trap in superhero movies, as we know, they have power so they can navigate these situations, and so you have to make the threat bigger to go up against them. And sometimes the threat's just a little bit above generic action movie threats. It's like, these guys have taken over Air Force One. The only difference between that and Air Force One is that these guys,
I just want my family back.
These guys extremists, and it's a comic book plot. So what does he have? Well, he's got the suit, but not really. I mean, they have their wits. It's almost like it's changing the circumstances slightly to like a slightly hyper real thing is sometimes better to me than just overblowing it with like. We've got like 5 suits flying around the plane. Oh, but the guys on the plane can fly too. Blah, blah, blah. They don't have to oversaturate it with that. So I liked his involvement, and I liked the continued interplay with him and Robert Downey Jr. It helps get that Terrence Howard taste out of my mouth.
Sure, yeah. I agree.
That guy...
Please don't go there.
That guy is pouting right now.
Yeah, he is.
Regardless of what you think of him in the movies, he's pouting.
Yes.
I think I saw some article here is like that movie Marvel ruined my career, and I'm like, shut up.
Yeah.
Stop whining.
Yeah, for real. I hate that.
What did you think of Pepper's role in the movie?
What role? Oh wait. As always, she doesn't really do much. She's just there, and she's the damsel in distress here, and. I don't have much of an opinion on the role. I think it was underwritten, as most female roles are in superhero movies. As always, she seems only a mildly interesting character, and Sorry, I know I told you I was going to sound grumpy. I'm not grumpy.
I think it's a little more to do than in the other movies, but. Maybe it could. I don't know how much, because they towed another line with toying with the fact that what if Pepper is not always the damsel in distress? What if she can't actually fight back? Because I can see it going both ways. I can see people saying she doesn't do anything, or I can have some people saying she does too much. It's unrealistic that Pepper, even if she had like superhuman abilities, would be able to accomplish the things she does in that short period of time. I do like that when she is in the Iron Man suit, it's not like she knows she can't fly it, she doesn't know how to use it, it's there for protection, essentially.
Right.
Like they show that she can't even shoot the glass, she doesn't even know how to shoot the repulsor beams,
Right, exactly.
Why don't we talk about that? Why don't we talk about other people wearing the suits? I know that some people do not like people who aren't Tony being able to just willy-nilly operate the suit. Which happens a good bit in this movie. So it almost makes you think, like, well, how smart is Tony if the suits can be operated by unauthorized people?
Of varying body types in the same suit.
I was watching a thing today about the production people talking about the idea behind the Mark 42 or whatever that, can come apart and fly onto them. That it's supposed to be both, like, thick enough to keep him protected from bullets, but flexible enough to be coated onto another person. So I'm like, so is that their unspoken rationale for different types, or are you supposed to go, okay, do we have to have suits that are 6 inches taller, providing, have a spot for a dude's junk, have a spot for, not, what I mean? Like, what if I have a huge ass? What do I do?
Yeah.
If I have an afro?
Or you're like the president and you're not very fit, you're just a dude.
You're just a dude, yeah. But I think that I think every time someone else dons a suit in this movie, it serves a truly motivated purpose. The only person I am not okay with having worn the suit is, I believe it's the henchman guy. Yeah. Doesn't he wear the Iron Patriot suit?
He wears Iron Patriot, yeah.
So I'm always kind of like, and I think they do show him not clumsily, but sort of like having a little bit of trouble landing with it. It's very subtle, but I saw it in the trailer, and so when you see the trailer after the fact, you know, like, that's not Rhodey.
Right.
But his landing, I'm sitting there thinking, like, that doesn't look very polished. And Rhodey knows how to fly the suit, so I just wonder if that was like a subtle, like, don't know what I'm doing.
It probably was, yeah.
But still, like, would you get into a suit and be like, I know how to do this? You don't know what you're doing. Like, how would you... Right. Tony, the first time he flew it, wasn't completely... That's the only problem I have. The only other person who operates the suit is Rhodey, and he knows how to use the suit.
Right.
So what did you think of Tony either not being in a suit... or operate, that whole idea. What do you think?
First off, I don't like other people in the suit. Period. I don't like War Machine. I don't like Iron Patriot. I don't like anyone having a suit but Tony Stark. Mm-hmm. At its most basic element, the suit. I know people will say, "Oh, it's his ingenuity and whatnot," but the suit is what makes Tony Stark special. Mm. The suit is what makes him stand toe-to-toe with the Hulk. What makes him stand toe-to-toe with Captain America and with, you know, all of these gods. It's that suit that makes him capable. I don't like the fact that Rhodey in the second one was able to just get in and fly it. I don't like the fact that the henchman can do the same thing. I think the suit is Tony's baby. And when other people are in it, it aggravates me. And I'm alone in that, because I know War Machine's popular and stuff, but I don't like it. I think that it's Tony's creation, and he would tailor it. I mean, he has a room where he can digitally recreate a crime scene, like, very perfectly, by the way. Mm-hmm. And then, you know, but I would assume he hasn't donated that technology to every police precinct in America. So he's not about making stuff for people. He's about making that for himself.
That's true.
The suit is that way. I don't believe that Tony would appreciate other people wearing his creations. Mm-hmm. That's just me. I think that it's an injustice to the character to have other people in the suits. Unless it's a bad guy who's like, you know, crafted one, you know, like Ironmonger or whatever. You know, like, I've crafted one myself. I can do this. And that's okay, because it's not Tony's thing.
When you think about it, the only reason Rhodey has a suit is because he stole it.
He stole it.
I almost expected them in the movie to be like, you still realize you illegally seized my property, right?
Exactly. I mean, I know they're friends, but yeah, I'm sorry.
Seriously,
Hooper,
give me it back.
if I built a suit that could make me fly and you took it, I would be super pissed at you. I'm sorry.
I'd be really mad.
I would be like, no,
guess what?
I made that.
I repainted it too, and I'm going to use it for the American government. Oh, okay, I didn't tell you could do that. In fact, I'm still not okay with you having it in the first place.
Yeah. Oh, hey, guess what? I have a button that will render it useless. Boom. That's what I would do.
I know. Yeah.
And then be like, well, what you gonna do now, Rhodey? You were in the middle, in midair. Now you're gonna fall to your death. And I would say the same thing to you, Hooper, because I hope you die. But I do appreciate the fact that Pepper couldn't control it. I think that was a wise choice.
Yeah.
Although, you know, what does it say? What does it say that all the men that get in the suit can control it and the woman can't? What is that?
Because she can't drive, Dustin. Duh.
She can't drive. These women.
My thoughts on other people wearing the suits are I don't have as much vitriol for it as, say, yourself.
Yes.
One of the reasons maybe Iron Man 2 works for me, the same reason by your definition that it probably shouldn't, is other people wearing the suits. Other suits existing. It works by my logic, but it doesn't work by yours with this particular point. Because people wearing the suits, not a great thing. I think that was a good part of I think that was an important part of the plot of that movie, though, was what happens when other people do get these suits.
Yeah.
And I think that being turned off by the idea of that is something that the audience should have, because it's ultimately showing not a great thing.
Yeah.
Unless you're my best friend, you steal it from me.
Yeah.
It's like a contradiction.
Sure.
So I ultimately don't like other people in the suits either, because to me, again, I'm much more concerned, like, in this make-believe world, what if other people get them? But it's more because I don't think it diminishes Stark's ingenuity or his brains. I like that being his thing, you know?
Yeah.
And there's something about that suit being, like, unique. Like, these are only flown, they're designed for him.
Yeah.
So that's the reason I think it's good that Pepper doesn't know how to use it. She merely just walks in it, you know?
Right.
I'm okay with Rhodey at this point, just because I know they're going to keep doing that, so whatever.
Sure.
I really, really liked his army of suits. And also, I guess, sort of also talking about the end action sequence. I loved it.
Yeah.
I wanted more in a good way.
Yeah.
I think some people have a problem. I was listening to a review today, and they said, isn't it, think about this. So at some point in the movie, they're like, oh, that these human bombs, they're not doing it on purpose, they're victims. And then they said, oh, and at the end, oh, he tells all the suits to just kill them all, blah, 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 it's a stupid plot hole, this. And I'm like, I'm like, well, first of all, I don't care. Second of all, they're not, because everyone on the barge at the end, or wherever they are, is trying to kill him. They're not victims. They are active participants who also have this attribute about their bodies. Like, I don't know. I just thought that
exactly. No, I agree with you.
So I hope that person's listening, because I think you're stupid, but he's not. So,
yeah, I agree. I think the final action sequence is really cool.
Yeah.
I do want to talk, while we're talking about the multiple suits and other people doing the suits, I do want to go ahead and touch on the fact that Jarvis is essentially a person in the suit. Mm-hmm. Jarvis can control these suits.
Yeah.
Just like Tony or, Rhodey or whoever else, Jarvis can. This, to me, is also not a great thing in its concept. It's cool to watch. Mm-hmm. It's fun to watch. But in its concept, that means that Tony never has to do anything again. He can tell his butler to fly, his digital butler, to fly a suit to help out the Avengers. That's what that tells me. I guess just in theory that doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Like I said, cool to watch. But the fact that they can essentially control themselves, I don't know how I feel about that.
I think they have to be careful with that in the future too. I really like what they did with the suits, because another problem I hear people have is, so he just has all these suits conveniently lying around for this action sequence, and I'm like, actually yes, because if you pay attention, he built them because he's restless. He can't sleep. He needs to keep moving. I don't know how other people do it, but when I'm depressed, I try to make something, know, where I kill people. I like that he made these suits for basically every possible contingency. Exactly. Think of each suit like each soup. Think of every soup. Yummy.
Chicken noodle soup.
Yes.
Potato soup.
With an appletini in it.
With an appletini.
Appletini soup. My favorite breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I have an alcohol problem. I think of all those suits as basically a crumpled up piece of paper, like an idea he had.
Yeah.
Like, what if I did this with the suit? What if I made a bigger one? What if I made one that could do this? Just a way a guy who's trying to busy himself does.
Right.
What do you do if you're Tony Stark and you're restless? Oh, I'm gonna go make some suits.
And it makes sense. I mean, he's immortal, and he now knows he lives in a world with super soldiers and monsters and aliens and gods, and I have to be prepared.
Yeah, exactly.
If I'm going to be a part of S.H.I.E.L.D., I have to literally plan for everything.
And that's the next logic. Like, technologically, I also like these movies because they take a very fluid technological journey. That's a big reason I like these to begin with, because they take a very logical path. Like, the first is making the suit. The second is making more suits, portable suits that can do different things, that have different strengths and weaknesses. Avengers, make extra suits, have the suit be able to come apart and fly to me, basically by those magnets or whatever he has on his wrists. This one, it's can I have? I thought it made sense to have them. How is there a way to have them power themselves, like with like autopilot, basically?
Right.
I do like the idea of Jarvis operating the suits. I do think they shouldn't go too far with that, because then essentially if Tony doesn't have to be present for an action sequence, there's no tension, because you know that the suit can get destroyed and he won't be in it.
But that's another thing they do in this movie with the remote control suits.
But I mean, I will give them credit for not doing it. I think they only do that
a couple of times,
but you never know until the end. So the scene's still thrilling; it still works
until you see it a second time.
Yeah, but the whole time I'm thinking like, well, okay, well, I guess this idea works. Now, if they were to do that in Iron Man 4 and go, I'd be like, I've seen this.
Right.
But
yeah.
I think that I really like the idea. I love what they did. Like I said with Extremis, which I'm now going to bring back up. An attribute of that they put into the movie without linking it to the actual Extremis thing was him injecting himself with something at the beginning of the movie, like 40-something times, which makes me think, is each one like a sort of like a telepathic link to the suits to be able to command each one? I wondered if that's what it was. Right. But they subtly just kind of say, okay, he gave himself a way to have like a psychic link with the suits.
Yeah.
And that's what I did like about Extremis was, what if I didn't have to step into like a weird thing to have the suit be built around me? What if I could have it accessible at all times? So maybe this movie does it in a more believable way than it growing out of his bones,
Sure.
Not to mention, like, where's all the bullets and rockets? Are they like in his butt? Where are they?
Yes,
probably.
They are.
I like it, but that's one of those things that can become an unlimited thing that also takes away the tension, and they shouldn't go too far in that direction.
Right.
Now, that brings me to my next point. What do you think of this going forward? Because I've read things that say it suggests that Stark won't have to wear the suit again. And I'm like, well, I think a couple things are going on. I think that, one, they flat out mentioned the franchise is going to move forward with or without Robert Downey Jr. because he's not under contract anymore.
Right.
So if he does opt out, they're like, it's not going to stop us. And it's not because there's a bitter relationship. They're just like, look, it's bigger than Robert, no offense, and this and that. So I would personally be kind of turned off if they recast Tony Stark.
Yeah, I would too. I think Robert Downey Jr. is one of the best superhero casting choices ever.
Yeah, and I think that I don't think he's going to walk away. I think if he ever walked away, it would be because there's nothing left to do. He himself has said there's still a couple things I want to do with the character. So I imagine, Avengers 2, 4, 5,
Right.
He doesn't have to do much physically for the role. It's not like he's going to be too old for it. It's not like he's going to hit 50 and go, I can't do this anymore. Right. I mean, he's not going to play until he's 60, though. So there will be a time. I think this does put a pretty good bookend on it, but there's going to be another one, you know. But and I do think that there's still more to explore. But this is kind of that point where between the suits being automated and removing the chest piece, where both symbolically and technologically, he doesn't have as much of a need to be Iron Man as he kind of did previously.
Sure.
What do you think of that?
I'm unclear as to what they're trying to say going forward. It's obvious that Tony Stark is going to play a role in the future of these movies.
Yeah.
So to say he's done is dumb because he's not.
He's not.
But I'm unclear because clean slate, presumably that destroyed every suit that he owned. Not to say he can't make more. As far as remote control or Jarvis piloting suits or whatever, I really think that would be a huge mistake. To me, I guess my thing is, and maybe I'm a traditionalist and whatever, but I think the superhero should be in the suit. I think the superhero should put his life on the line for the greater good. And so when even if it's him and 40 of them piloted by his digital butler, at least he's still putting his life on the line, if that makes sense.
Right.
So to have him remote control the suit or whatever, I think that's a huge mistake, and it would completely take him out of harm's way, which again it ruins all tension, and I think we covered that. But I think they're going to have to be very careful with where they go from here, and I think it would be smart of them to say, okay, Robert, we need you in Avengers 2 and 3, but that's it. Just those 2 movies. Give us those 2 movies, and we'll call it even, and you're done. And we can move on from there, because I think having an Iron Man 4 isn't necessarily necessary. I think that Avengers 2 and 3 are completely necessary. So let him finish that out and have sort of a sixology. What do you call that? I don't even know. Of Iron Man movies. That's how I would go. But again, he's got to build a new suit, and he's got to stand there right next to Thor. That's just the way it's got to be.
I have no doubt that whatever they do with him next, it will be him in the suit.
Yeah.
I don't think they'll ever be, because they know that they need the audience to care, and so they're going to have him, and they will. And I think there are some people who think it's more about money than it is about the storyline. What do I know? Maybe it is, but but people like Iron Man because they like Robert Downey Jr. I mean, a lot of the audience also comes for the action. Ultimately, they don't really care. To me, I just don't like seeing it. I don't like seeing recasting. I just don't like it.
I agree.
Because it either makes the former star look bad because whatever you think they probably wanted too much money, or it makes the studio look bad because it's like they care more about the franchise than they do about the actors.
Right.
It just makes me not like the whole thing.
Right.
I think going forward, it's going to really depend. I guess there's not going to be another Iron Man movie until after the next Avengers, presumably.
Yeah. If there is another one.
Right. If there is another one. So what we do know is there's going to be an Avengers 2. So we know that we will see him at least one more time. And I think they left. I think a little bit of Joss Whedon in there, leaving it. I don't know if he has other things and other pieces to put in place at the end of Thor or Captain America. I don't think they're making another Hulk movie, so it's really just going to be Thor's in November, and I guess Captain America is going to be next summer.
Yeah.
So was there going to be a whole year between that and the next Avengers? Avengers is in 2015, isn't it?
Right. So there's going to be Guardians of the Galaxy, and I think that's about it.
Okay. Well,
which I'm not sure if that's going to play into the Avengers or not. I don't know how that's going to work.
I guess they'll figure out more closely. I mean, what happens in the next Iron Man, if there is one, is going to depend pretty much entirely on the Avengers 2. I know that whatever it is...
Which, by the way, though, Gwyneth Paltrow says there's not going to be another Iron Man.
Yeah, well, as far as she knows. But again,
what does she know?
Yeah.
Okay, explain this to me. Tony calls all these suits to him towards the end.
Yes.
But what stopped him from calling all of those suits to him a lot earlier?
Like as his house was being destroyed?
I'll let that one go. But once he was in Killian's dungeon and pulled Jarvis, he pulled the suit to him or whatever, and he's all up in there, and then Jarvis is talking to him, and he's like, "Oh, hey, what's up?" And then Jarvis is like, "Yo, the suit has like 93% power." Well, why wouldn't he have been like, "Oh yeah, you can go ahead and send me another suit that has full power, and also send that Hulkbuster suit because that guy is ballin'."
I'm trying to think of what happens between that point and the actual climax.
He escapes from there and gets on a boat with Rhodey.
Yeah,
and rescues Air Force One.
That was from the boat?
Yeah, because remember, he's in the cabin of the boat, remote control piloting Iron Man.
Oh,
and Iron Man goes up in there and saves all the people that are falling out of the plane.
Which you could have done with a lot more ease with all the suits,
with a whole bunch of suits, yes.
I don't know,
like,
maybe...
Hey, Jarvis, how many people? And he's like, there are 13 people, sir. And he's like, okay, give me 13 suits, please. And he's like, yeah, right away, sir. They're on their way.
Well, let's see. Where are they when Air Force One? Because if they're far away, then maybe they couldn't have gotten there.
Well, they probably couldn't have gotten there in
time. But they flew there pretty quickly at the end, so where were they?
Right, but remember, he's not wearing a suit when he and Rhodey are trying to when they're snooping around. It would have been a whole lot easier with two suits.
My short answer is, I guess you got me. I guess no one's thinking about that at the time. I guess everyone at the end of the movie is like, well, why not? But that's how people think, and that's how I would have the same question. I guess I don't really have an answer. Maybe the movie's less exciting. I don't know.
I mean, it's like when he's remote control piloting Iron Man and he saves the people, and then it's revealed that he was remote piloting. I guess the problem is as he and Rhodey are infiltrating it, you don't know that he could call the suits to him.
Yeah.
So it's only like when he does that you're like, why did he just do that?
Except you've seen the trailer, so you know that there are lots of suits.
Yeah, you know there are gonna be,
I don't know.
but like they're like snooping around, and it's like, okay, now I'll call him, and then my first thought was, but you just snuck into a base. Why didn't you call him a long time ago? And again, nitpicky, yes. Still made an awesome final action sequence.
Yeah.
And whatever. It's just looking back on it, it's like, yeah, but why didn't he do that? It's like when you write a screenplay and you take it to class or whatever, and everyone's critiquing it, and they find a plot hole in your script, and you're like, oh, you're right.
Yeah.
And it feels kind of like that or whatever, and it's like, oh yeah, I did just say that he could call the suits, and then they're like, why didn't he do it earlier? And you're like,
I'm not sure.
I don't, because whatever. Then, whatever. Again, I'm not going to hold it against him too much. But it does lead me to another point, which is there's a couple times that I feel like the humor of the film kind of, obviously an Iron Man movie has to be funny. But sometimes I feel like the humor goes a little too much, and it goes a little too far in that it makes things seem less pressing, or at its worst, it makes Tony seem less competent. It doesn't really. It's not like a huge problem or anything, but there's a couple times like in that final sequence there, they're snooping around, and Tony like jumps up and like turns around and looks, and Rhodey's like, "What did you see?" And he goes, "I don't know, too quick." And like, yeah, like that's funny. It's really funny, and I'll admit that was funny.
Yeah.
But at times you run the risk of making your hero seem goofy, like too goofy, and then shortly thereafter it's followed by a moment where Tony like kneels down and is like calling Mark 42 to him, and then it just like crashes like right next to him, and he's like, well, that didn't go as planned. I don't know what he says, some quip, and again, there's just a few times where I felt like the humor went too far in making light of characters or of situations, and there's the whole issue with, okay, he goes to the beauty pageant where they have the worst Stan Lee cameo of them all, and he goes in to this guy's truck, and then the guy comes out, and there's a really long sequence where that guy is talking to him about his tattoo and about all kinds of stuff, and it's like, you really could have just had him go into that thing and fire up the internet and get on without telling me, oh, it's not fast enough, now I have to talk to this guy, and then it's going to be fast enough. And you really could have cut all that out. And there are just times where the humor, I felt like, was not needed, if that makes sense. Whereas in the Avengers, the moments that are played for humor drive the story. And I don't know if you agree with me. What do you think?
That's another where I do, but I'm not bothered by it.
Sure.
I think with both the guy in the TV truck and the kid, I think that in those situations, I think I would be bothered more by, where are the people who would be here with the whole garage? Where's the owner of the house with the TV truck? Just maybe it's coming from working at a TV station. Like, where are the people whose truck this is?
Right.
So I would think, like, if he could just, now granted, we see him like make a bunch of weapons and infiltrate like a mansion. So where I'm thinking, like, how did he just sneak in there? It's easy to just walk into a truck. But I have a little bit more of a problem with just indiscriminate use of other people's stuff without at least that person seeing it.
Sure, yeah.
Like, I think I have more of a problem with that in movies than
I can
than actual things that maybe slow down the momentum. It's odd because I'm critical of such things usually, but I really can't stand, like, I'll just use this computer. Because in real life, even if you're using a computer at the library, which, whatever, there's usually a guy already there. It's not just sitting there waiting for me to use it. Like,
right.
I like it in movies where like you have to push people out of the way. It's like, okay, because maybe there would be, maybe it is crowded that day.
Right, sure. So here's the meat. Here's what I want to get to. Mm-hmm. Tony Stark's arc in the film. Mm-hmm. How would you explain the arc that Tony undergoes, the emotional arc?
I'm not sure if it's more of like a how he deals with the world, or like how he's adjusting to the world around him, or how he's adjusting to having Pepper. Like, does he realize that he was reckless and selfish and didn't consider her? Mm-hmm. You know, like I'm wondering, like, is it because he's in a relationship that he's able to move past his need for the suits, mm-hmm. or at the end is that sort of what's implied? Like, yeah, all my stuff's kind of gone, but I'm still me. Yeah. So I guess I'm unclear. I mean, it's like I see it and it works, but I don't know if I can explain it.
So
I don't know if that means I
said what I was going to say.
Yeah.
I think the arc is set up very well. Yeah. But then kind of fizzles out in amongst the action. And, you know, there's a few things that would be very obvious to hit here. One of them being, you know, demon in a bottle. You've got the PTSD kind of thing, but obviously you can't do that because we're doing a family-friendly, kid-friendly franchise. You can't deal with alcoholism in your hero. Shane Black has said as much in an interview, said that Marvel told him he couldn't do it. Just because, you know, what 8-year-old kid is going to be fascinated watching a guy drink himself to death? I feel like the arc was kind of overshadowed a little bit, and so you have this really cool setup where he gets nervous and he gets, you know, like antsy when you mention New York, and that's really cool. And you even touch on this sort of existentialism that I thought they were going to hit, where he says to the kid, you know, why are there 5 shadows here if there were 6 people here or whatever? And he says, oh, well, they say it's because the shadows go to heaven and the other guy went to hell, so he didn't have a shadow. Mm-hmm. And so Tony's like, well, do you believe that? And he says, I guess that's what everybody says or whatever. And so I thought we were going to hit a little bit of Tony, you know, as a scientist, as a man of science, saying like, now I live in a world with aliens and gods. You know, I can't explain that. I can't quantify that in a scientific way. Yeah. And I feel like those are things that could have been done, and they didn't do them. But I can't, you know, fault the movie for things that they didn't do. But I can say that scene served the purpose of the kid kind of funnily, that's not even a word, humorously saying, you know, New York a couple times and Tony having a panic attack. Yeah. But then I don't remember another panic attack after that. Oh wait, there was the one after the he's in the car on the phone with the kid, and the kid says, well, you're a mechanic, right? And he says, yeah, I am. And so that was a little panic attack there. But that was the last one. And I don't know if that was meant to clear up that arc. Yeah. With the you're a mechanic, right? Yes. Or I didn't know if that was the end when I was watching it and looking back on it. I still don't know that was a clear enough end to, you know, post-traumatic stress disorder, because everything else, you know, he gets through with ease. You know, I thought he was going to have a debilitating panic attack during a battle, and that was going to, you know, hurt him, and he would have to get over it. So I feel like in the end the arc was set up really well, but fizzled out. And then at the end was unclear when it's like, okay, he's lost all of his suits. He deliberately destroys all of his suits, blah, blah, blah. And he seems to have moved on. He got surgery. He's with Pepper. He seems happy. Mm-hmm. And he's moved on, seemingly what they're saying. He's moved on past the need of being Iron Man. Yeah. But then the last phrase is, there's one thing you can't take from me. I'm Iron Man. Yeah. So now he hasn't moved on. So I'm kind of unclear as to what the arc, where Tony is now. And I was going to ask you where you think he is.
I think just it's weird because I would say what I think just based on this movie, but I'm going to factor in the franchise and everything. I think all facts considered, I think he's moved past the. I don't know what the need for Iron Man really is because he's still going to be Iron Man.
Yeah.
I guess there's a difference between the need for Iron Man and a moderate involvement of Iron Man.
Sure.
And I think he was only obsessed with the suits in this one because he needed to tinker, he needed to busy himself. So I don't know if that means he's just going to scale down his operation. I have no idea. I don't know what to think, and maybe they want to leave some of that open to tinker more within the Avengers, or maybe they want to. I don't know if maybe I do feel like there was a little bit of a let's not establish too much.
Sure.
At the end of this, because then let's just say it doesn't work with what we're doing with the others, we'd have to reverse some stuff, or we'd have to explain away some stuff, and so maybe they just wanted to restrain themselves so that they had a little more freedom with the next one. But there are questions I thought like, well, okay, I kind of like the ambiguity because then it serves well as an ending if they ended it, But they're not going to. So what's happening?
Sure. I guess my question is, when we get to the Avengers 2, I could see it going two ways. One, Iron Man is there and he's still operating. He's still Iron Man. That's his last word in the film. If you don't include the little tag at the end with Mark Ruffalo, but his last, I am Iron Man. So you can open Iron Man or the Avengers 2 with him as Iron Man, same as always, or you could have to talk him back into being Iron Man. And it's that ambiguity. Like, I could see them saying, like, yeah, well, Stark won't be, he's refusing, to be Iron Man or whatever, and they have to talk him back into it, or this big threat comes and he has no choice but to enter it again. Yeah. And so the fact that there is that ambiguity, I think serves to, water down the arc of the film, in that there's not a definitive ending to the arc. And, obviously it's a comic book movie, so you don't really want to end an arc unless you're The Dark Knight Rises. But I just felt like it wasn't super resolved, and that's probably my biggest concern with the film, is that I don't know what he gained from the experience, other than having beaten the villain and whatnot. I don't know what he personally achieved or became during the course of the film, and so that's where my biggest flaw with the film lies.
That's another fair point.
Do you agree, or?
Yeah, I do, and that's another thing where it's like very few people. I think we both know very few people will see that because the film. And I sometimes try not to think of it. I think there are some people who do see that and who will say the film tries to misdirect you, blah blah blah. And I'm like, well, first of all, it serves a purpose to a mass audience who don't consider this at all. Yeah. And then there are people like us who it does matter on a more thematic level, and it does matter what the characters are feeling and thinking.
Sure.
And so there's me where I'm like, I guess I can't. I'd have to just wait until they finished all this to really pass. Maybe I'm just restraining myself because I just don't know what they're going to do. I kind of have to see where they end up. Maybe it's a more subtle arc, more like into like a miniseries or something, because these movies are so interwoven and they're going to thread for a while, where maybe they just don't want to have like these black and white life-changing events happen for him. Maybe it's a more realistic picture of human beings who go through changes. Maybe they're less visible than you would think, but I definitely know that I feel and I see the change in Tony Stark, and yet again I can't quantify it. I can't explain it. I can't break it down. I can't say here's the point where he realizes this. I just know he's changed, but I don't really. If I were a spectator in this world, like I'd see him and I would just think, well, his behavior's certainly changed. He's a lot more, I don't know,
a lot more responsible or level-minded.
Yeah.
But and that's true. I just think it could have been a really cool arc for even if you look at it from like a kid's point of view, to understand that a psychological issue is a psychological issue and can be overcome. And had they really hit that point home, that could have been a really good message to send to people. And especially, in our world now, when so many soldiers come back home and have to deal with PTSD. So anyway, maybe I'm overthinking it a little bit, but overall, I enjoyed the film, and I do have problems with little bits and pieces of things. But, things like other people holding, being in the suit. I don't really hold it against the film. I don't like it, but that's what the film chose to do, so I don't really say, like, oh, I hate the film because of it. But it's just, well, I disagree with the concept, but you pull it off well. You know what I mean? So overall, I was still satisfied with having seen the matinee, and I think it's well worth that, at least, just to see it in theaters.
I think that covers it.
You dig?
I dig. Well, everybody, stay tuned for the next episode, and we'll be doing some stuff. Okay. Well, goodbye.
Bye, everybody. I waved, but none of you can see it. You think I would know by now.
Did you see that picture that was like a picture of Stevie Wonder singing, and it's like roses are black, violet are black, everything is black.
It is black.
I can't see. Okay.
That is classic.
Anyway, goodbye.
Goodbye. It is funny. Roses.